Peterson is a liar.
All these things add up to murder.
He did it.
It begins like a fairy tale. Scott Peterson, 30 years old, living in the quiet town of Modesto, California. To neighbors, he seemed like the dream husband, clean-cut, polite, attentive. His wife, Lacey Rocha Peterson, only 27, radiated warmth, a woman with a big smile, a contagious laugh, and an almost childlike excitement for life. She was 8 months pregnant, waiting for the arrival of their first son, already named Connor. From the outside, their life looked perfect. A tidy suburban home, a loyal dog, Mackenzie, Christmas lights strung across the roofline in anticipation of the holiday. To friends and family, they were that couple, the ones who had it all together. But perfection has a way of hiding cracks. Behind the laughter, behind the holiday cheer, Scott was restless. Lacey was planning family dinners, nursery decorations, and baby showers. Scott, meanwhile, was quietly slipping away, his thoughts turning toward another life, another future, one where responsibility and devotion weighed less heavily on his shoulders. His phone in hand, eyes fixed on a message he wouldn't dare show her. To the world he was devoted. To Lacey, he was love. But inside, he was a man living two lives. And before this story ends, those two lives will collide in a way so brutal, so shattering, that the nation will never forget. Stories like this remind us how fragile trust can be. If you value these stories, if you believe in remembering the truth, please support by subscribing, commenting, and sharing. Because silence is where betrayal grows. The cracks began small, almost invisible. Scott grew distant. He was home, but not present. His laughter no longer reached his eyes. Conversations with Lacey became shorter, colder. She chalked it up to stress, to work, to the weight of becoming a new father. But friends noticed. Family whispered. Something was off. At gatherings, Scott would fade into the background, scrolling his phone, glancing away when conversations turned to fatherhood. Lacey, in contrast, glowed with anticipation, proudly cradling her belly, speaking of Connor as if he were already there. But Scott's mind was elsewhere. Late at night, while Lacey rested, he was on the phone, in quiet corners, at odd hours, sending messages that didn't belong to a husband preparing for fatherhood. He was weaving lies, building another life brick by brick. The double life demanded attention. Lies about work, excuses for absences, explanations for late returns. And yet Lacey never questioned him deeply. She trusted him, perhaps too much. One evening, while Lacey carefully wrapped gifts for their family's Christmas celebration, Scott stepped outside, phone pressed to his ear. His voice softened. A smile spread across his face, a smile reserved not for his wife, but for someone else. On the other end of that phone, a woman laughed softly, and Scott's words cut deep. "I miss you already." Her name was Amber Frey, a 27-year-old massage therapist from Fresno, single mother looking for love. When he met her, he introduced himself not as a husband, not as a father-to-be, but as a bachelor. Wealthy, free, available. It was a performance, and he played the role flawlessly. Charming, attentive, romantic. Amber believed him. Why wouldn't she? He courted her with flowers, dinners, whispered promises. He told her stories of a future together, of how he longed for companionship. All lies. Back home, Lacey folded baby clothes, painted nurseries, and dreamed of the family she thought she was building. But Scott was spending evenings with Amber, telling her things that made her believe she was the only one. The betrayal deepened with every word. Scott telling Amber that this would be my first Christmas without my wife. Amber, unaware of the truth, leaned into his arms, believing his story. The juxtaposition is cruel. Two women, one man, Two versions of his life, but only one of them would pay the ultimate price. December 24th, 2002, Christmas Eve. Laci Peterson vanished. That morning she was seen walking the dog. She was glowing, 8 months pregnant, filled with anticipation for Christmas dinner with her family that evening. Then, nothing. She never arrived. Scott reported her missing later that day. His story? She had gone for a walk and never returned. The search began immediately. Friends, neighbors, police, and volunteers scoured Modesto. Flyers plastered across windows, helicopters buzzing overhead, news cameras rolling. And there was Scott, standing before the cameras, giving statements, appealing for help. His words were careful. His tone, calm. Too calm. As volunteers combed through fields and lakes, Scott was making phone calls, not to investigators, not to family, but to Amber. Even on Christmas Eve, while Laci's family prayed for her safe return, Scott was maintaining the illusion of bachelorhood, maintaining the lie. A glowing Christmas tree, unopened presents beneath it, and Laci's chair at the family table, empty. The investigation gained momentum. Detectives dissected Scott's alibi, a fishing trip at Berkeley Marina. Odd, unconvincing. Why would a man fish on Christmas Eve while his pregnant wife was home preparing for family celebrations? Questions piled up. His behavior, strangely calm, even distant. His phone records revealing calls that didn't align with his story. Then came the bombshell. His affair. Amber Frey was blindsided. She had no idea the man she was dating was married, let alone expecting a child. When detectives approached her, she agreed to help. She began recording Scott's calls, capturing his words as the world unraveled. Public outrage exploded. The image of Scott as a grieving husband shattered. Now, he was a liar, a cheater, and possibly far worse. The nation turned against him. And yet, Scott continued calling Amber, weaving stories, promising futures. One haunting recording would later play in court. Scott's calm voice, even as candlelight vigils for Laci were held in Modesto, whispering to Amber, "I'll be there soon. I promise." The contrast was unbearable. While Laci's face appeared on missing posters, Scott was whispering love to another woman. April 2003. The search ended in horror. Along the San Francisco Bay, not far from where Scott claimed he had gone fishing, 2 bodies wash ashore. The remains of a woman and a tiny infant. It was Laci and baby Connor. The discovery shattered any lingering doubt. The nation grieved. Laci's family collapsed under the weight of unimaginable loss. The betrayal was now total. Not just adultery, but murder. Scott's reaction chilled investigators. No tears, no visible grief, just calm, detached answers. Police closed in. When they arrested him, he was found with $15,000 in cash, multiple cell phones, camping equipment, and his hair dyed blonde. A man on the run. A close-up of Scott's face in the mugshot, the mask finally broken, the lies now public. The trial consumed the nation. Every news outlet covered it. Every neighbor in Modesto whispered about it. America was transfixed by the story of the husband who betrayed, lied, and prosecutors argued, murdered. Laci's family sat in the courtroom, hearts broken but resolute, determined to see justice. They had once welcomed Scott as a son. Now, they saw only a stranger. The community turned against him, branding him a monster. Signs, protests, angry voices filled the air outside the courthouse. But not everyone let go. Scott's parents defended him, insisting he was innocent. A painful generational conflict unfolded, loyalty to their son versus the truth of their daughter-in-law's death. In the courtroom, prosecutors laid out the chilling details. The affair, the lies, the fishing trip, the discovery of the bodies. Piece by piece, the image of Scott as a loving husband was destroyed. The jury, silent, ready to deliver a verdict that would echo for years. November 2004. The verdict came. Scott Peterson was found guilty of first-degree murder for Lacey and second-degree murder for Connor. The courtroom erupted. Gasps, tears, cries of relief, cries of rage. Lacey's family held one another, sobbing. Justice at last, though no verdict could bring her back. Months later, Scott was sentenced to death. He showed no remorse, no apology, no admission of guilt. Just silence. The betrayal was complete. A man who had once been husband, father-to-be, family, now condemned as a murderer. The image of Scott being led away, shackled, as Lacey's family wept. A final confrontation between truth and lies. Years passed, but the case never faded. It remained one of the most haunting betrayals in American memory. The story of a young woman, vibrant and full of life, destroyed by the very man she trusted most. Lacey's family carried the grief, but also the determination to honor her memory. They created foundations, spoke out for victims, and refused to let her story be forgotten. Scott remains behind bars, appealing, fighting, but forever branded by the choices he made. The legacy of his betrayal is a warning that love, when poisoned by lies, can become deadly, that behind the facade of perfection, darkness can grow. Justice may have come in the courtroom, but true justice lies in remembering Lacey and Connor. Their story is not just about betrayal and loss. It is about the courage of a family who stood for truth even when it broke their hearts. And it is about us refusing to forget. If Lacey's story moved you, share it, because truth, no matter how painful, deserves to be remembered. Take a moment to support this channel by subscribing. These stories take countless hours of research, writing, and storytelling to bring to life. If you want more true life stories that expose betrayal, crime, and the courage to face the truth, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and share it with others. And if you have your own thoughts or experiences, leave a comment below. Your voice matters, and together we can keep stories like this alive. Thank you for watching.